was there on the coast, looking for gold. I had no luck for days. I found lesser things in the ground, like fossil teeth and grains of other metals. Sleep escaped me this one night. Frustrated with myself, I left my tent to walk. I saw some people in the moonlight. They were out for natural materials like fruits and seeds and stones. I hid in bushes, but the eldest woman saw me. She pointed, and two strong men of theirs lifted me up from behind. I had not sensed them at all. I had no choice but to stand and show myself. They led me to the cliffs, and I was terrified. The rocks were so tall. They were utterly excited to show me something in the distance. All of them pointed out to sea. I looked over and over without any notion of what they were meaning, and then there it was. A shape cutting through the waters. A triangle. A shark fin. Mountain-sized. It looked like the Great Pyramid of Giza. For this reason, I gave it a similar name in my journal. It seems that many Americans like it now. Pyramid Fin.
People don't know this about her, but I've spoken to her and I know. I feel a heavy responsibility to inform you of the condition of your Lady Liberty. She goes by many names: Freedom, America, Columbia. She's been stressed for a long time. She's in agony. Sometimes it's what her citizens label as anxiety about relatively small or insignificant things that should only take up the small, dusty corners of a human being's inner palace. But her mind is naturally wired to take shifts tormenting herself over the various big topics in the modern world. Today, she's terrified by two big things, and I believe that the tension within her is as taut as it possibly can be in the present moment. Columbia could snap any second now. I truly do not know how that would manifest, but that event is hovering over us all. The first matter of concern, the ubiquitous American automobiles. They're everywhere, and they're crowding out the previously wide open spaces of her country. On any ordinary day, it seems that there are far more cars strolling about their day than people. I know that each vehicle typically has 4 seats, but rarely are the first 2 even occupied. Look about. Essentially, we see over and over in lines and parked rows a single miserable driver in control of a massive, nightmarish steel exterior. Do the people enjoy the vehicles more than the company of each other? Columbia longs for the free spaces of some of her European contacts. Legs and bicycles take up no space at all on stretches like these overseas. I know I recorded traffic for another personification's calming tape, the one who visits Henry Ford, but after meeting Columbia, I can't stand that asphalt soundscape. It twists the tension in my own nerves. The other more pressing subject of her distress, food and the affordability of sustaining herself nutritionally. At this point, she simply needs the energy to continue to tomorrow. There is no time for her to think or eat healthily. It's the day after Christmas, and she's starving. She can't afford the pressures of employment when there are countless more little biting things orbiting her psyche. Who's going to tell Columbia to get a job? For now, she waits in line for bread and soup, like her children around her. She doesn't acknowledge them, though. She loves them endlessly, but she won't embarrass herself or anybody else with expressions of recognition. Sure, The others know this is Lady Liberty. They describe her in line and mock her robes. But sometimes, in her mind, to love and respect deeply is to take no notice. Columbia ignores to love. Once she has had her fill of bread and soup, however, then she might stretch out a greeting. Maybe she'll exclaim. But for now, Columbia is far too anxious, stressed, tired, and hungry. It has been a very difficult month. I will not say that I'm particularly looking forward to next year because, well, we're going to war, which means my friends are going to war, and that I am going to war. I was there at the base. It was so terribly loud, with the waves, and the metal, and the fire. There was so much fire. The ships caught, the seawater caught, and the screams caught too. It is categorically a different type of sound. You will know it when you hear it. It is unlike anything else. I apologize. We're here to talk about her. Historically, she appears in areas and times of need and distress. For instance, in bread and soup lines with the people, in hospitals and fields during drought, at centers of finance during crashes, at the base with the soldiers. In the photographs coming out of Pearl, everyone can be seen tending to the sailors and looking inward at the various wrecks. Columbia, though, she looks away. Maybe she couldn't bring herself to look. I don't know whether the recordings of her crying and sobbing aloud are authentic. Perhaps it is dependent on who is observing her and our own emotional states. Columbia is the people. But what I saw, and what I do know, is that she looked out to the horizon. I believe she looked out at the other country. I think our Columbia locked eyes with Japan.
They were beautiful in the night, like stars punched into big shadow triangles. I was assigned security route, making loops to make sure every lamp was lit and no enemies had entered the base. I was scared of the darkness at first, and that fear of mine never truly left. But it grew smaller and smaller. The security runs and lamp lighting became a meditative process for me. I'd look back at the end of the route and think, did I light every lamp on this side of the mountain? I was deep in my thoughts, like I was hypnotized. I remember once looking out at the sea with that thought. To my surprise, there was another shadow triangle with no lights. It was late when I thought, there's a mountain I forgot the lights on. Then the triangle began to drift and sink into the waters. Lower and lower and lower until it was gone. I told my advisor. He said some mountains move here. He told me that's the reason why there are no enemies around. It was the first time I saw the rumored pyramid fin.
I have since learned that Medusa was not always on Gibraltar. She's inhabited multiple caves over the years, slowly making her way eastward, away from the original spot of her beheading. In a way, I think she is exploring the world for herself, soaking in all the different lands and peoples with her indefinite lifespan. She might as well, since time is an irrelevant factor. But there have been awful instances of Medusa being deceived and voluntarily controlled before being transported to faraway places. It always cost the lives of nearly everyone involved in the operations. Good for her. This happened a few times over the course of the First World War, but nowhere near the frequency recorded during the Second. Post-war Allied investigations suggest that the Axis took her to over 100 battlefields between 1939 and 1945 to engage in combat. This was in stark contrast to America's Columbia at the time, who intentionally entered conflicts on her own, starting in 41. Luckily for her, she could enter the conflict on her own terms. She was always met with surprise. She was not widely known enough to be a consistent target for the Axis. There are fewer chances for them to think, this is someone we need. Medusa is much more internationally recognized and thus desired. Yes, the Axis tried to catch Columbia on occasion, but never with the same ferocity. She knew how to best them in every encounter. Brutally. It would be a mistaken assumption this meant that Medusa was any less powerful. They are both astounding and untouchable beings. It is just that, unfortunately, Medusa is more famous. It has nothing to do with Medusa's own choices. It has everything to do with how people see and talk and think about her. Will Columbia be around in Medusa's shoes? Yes, in her own way. But Columbia is not in Medusa's shoes. Medusa is, and she is here. Medusa survived everything to this point. Medusa persists. Medusa is a war veteran, and she continues. This is why Medusa won most battles against Columbia, except 6 out of 27 confirmed clashes. With every beheading by Columbia, Medusa adapted. find chained to a rock. There were tours scheduled for the precise time that the eagle struck him, which it did every morning. There was a lot of money in this mythological tourism business. Hikers going up the mountain were always cheerful and excited, except the children, who were sometimes tense, no doubt from the gory details inherent to his tale. Everybody on the descent could not veil their frozen expressions of hurt, sorrow, fear, nausea. Some sobbed. They would likely never return, even those who I assumed were not squeamish. The actual sound of the liver strike was utterly terrible, like a completely unrestrained explosion of flesh and liquid. He mostly remained silent up until then, and even through the moment. Afterward, he would groan, wail, cry for a few minutes, before falling into a kind of comatose. The guide said that he would awaken later in the evening and stay lucid for the rest of the night. No mental or physical aids were provided in fear of upsetting those who sentenced Prometheus. Nobody else wanted to be chained. I was the first tourist to ever return. I talked to management and I persuaded them to keep a tape player nearby with the narration I recorded. They agreed to press play every morning and rewind it in the night. I tried to soothe the Titan, then cushion the eagle's attack with my voice. I wrote it with the intention of making his life a little more bearable. I think it would give me some comfort. I hope to replace the tape every week to give him new company. The same things, said again and again, would parallel Prometheus's plight too closely. valiant soul who will never die. You are among the most legendary sacrifices, and yet you live. You will forever know and be reminded of the greatness of your act. We will ensure that. We will remind you for as long as our species endures. You must cherish yourself, your soul, and who you know you are deep down. A good Titan. After all, you continue to remain. There is no one else like you, and yet we are all your electric children. We are so grateful for you. We thank you all the time. All of us understand the weight of you and your plight. You are not alone. You are not alone. Be strong. Listen to the sounds of life on this tape. Listen to your bravery and what you know within. That eagle above is nothing. You are everything, Prometheus. I sought Medusa after Prometheus. I felt that my efforts would perhaps be more successful with her. My calming tape for the Titan has sparked a pattern of divine relocation, meaning that every time a tape of mine plays for him to put his pain and sacrifice in perspective, Prometheus is mysteriously taken and moved elsewhere, likely by Zeus or whoever sends out that blasted eagle every morning. I have my own list of suspects. I think the constant moving must be a source of stress for Prometheus, but I hope that perhaps it is a refreshing change in routine. Better than the same rock again and again, right? I have not heard his mutterings in the night when he is lucid. Then he may disclose his thoughts. I do not know. The Titan was originally chained to a rock. Then he was moved to a forest, and now he remains missing. I have no doubt that the rangers or the tour guides or the intrepid hikers will come across him soon and make his new address known. In the meantime, I've looked for Medusa excitedly. I've always found peace in her tale, knowing that her fate was completely undeserved and entirely separate from her actions. She did absolutely nothing to deserve her condition. In fact, according to all interpretations, she did absolutely nothing at all. She was living her own life when others decided that pain and punishment would be stamped repeatedly on her. I think she was the unrelated outlet for their frustrations and insecurities. In an unshakable demonstration of strength and inner resolve, she continues. I don't know why Perseus and Athena expected the beheading to be the end of her. Her serpent hair makes her regeneration abilities obvious to me. I never thought that a simple sword and prideful heroes could have ever ended her. She is as unstoppable as she is beautiful, and yes, she is beautiful. I have seen her. Listen, only fools and the shallow speak of ugliness as a physical attribute. There is no such thing. It is pure mythology. My initial preconceptions expected her to be in a state of despair or disdain, but no, there was no defeat. She laughs constantly. Every second, she laughs like a world champion. Make no mistake. She has won. Medusa lives and lives and lives and grows only more glorious with time. Continues to wander today. Since Odysseus, he's abandoned his farming and herding habits in favor of grazing. With every passing day, he becomes more and more like the animals he used to tend to. At some point along the way, I think he sat, or sank, in his remorse and decided on a life reaching for maximum inaction and unobtrusiveness. The more adventurous tourists have camped in the night near his habitat, claim to have overheard his prayers to his father Poseidon. According to them, he eagerly wishes to transform into a small plant, ideally, or a small herbivore, at the very least. He's tired of his size and impact. He rejects the self that he so desperately tried to defend in the past. To my understanding, he fundamentally wishes to expand and eventually erase the edges of his ego and become part of a non-invasive community or system. Unfortunately, his words have gone unheard, or their real-world application has been inexplicably delayed, possibly shelved. He's been roaming like some terrestrial whale for millennia. His bones grow denser and his skin grows thicker, and he resembles the very elephant ancestors that he and other Cyclopes descended from. I wish him well, truly. I think he is still making an effort to lose himself even today, and he's done good work in my eyes. He looked much more like an angry human in the past, according to sources in antiquity. Good for him. Good for Polyphemus. I also admire his vegetarianism. He sings when he grazes, again, like a whale. I believe some record companies have preserved his songs for the wider world. I own one album titled Songs of the Cyclops. Polyphemus has a heart-wrenching voice.
aliens weren't geniuses. No, they were using more ancient material, and they tricked her. That jar was always going to tip and explode at the teensiest touch. Poor Pandora visits the coast of Thessaly every year and kneels before broken clay. In regret! Poor girl! She doesn't need to. She should not. It appeases no one but bad characters on that mountain. But she wants to. She feels more guilt than her peers because she's a sensitive soul. They birthed somebody who could feel great shame at this mistake of their design. Shame for simple and innocent curiosity. There is a little bit of Pandora in all of us, and that's why we deserve gifts. Rewards. We need little breaks from this sick, hard joke of a world. So, around the holidays, I tiptoed to the coast and cleaned the scraps of shattered clay and pulled hope out from the bottom of the jar. And I left another container on the coast of Thessaly. No more bad things. It is all elastic banded, so they will fit the range of measurements I assumed from the photographs. By the coast, there is little reference for size. Much like for Pandora, there is little reference for guilt around. So here we go. A gift for one of the first women. Happy holidays, Pandora.
I woke up to the sound of my son screaming. I ran as fast as I could to the front yard, and he was just standing there before an animal. It looked like a buffalo with a lot of legs. First thing I thought was, big bug. It had its long black tongue on the ground and it slowly slithered near our boots. I think it was using its tongue to feel its way around because it had no eyes. I was surprised that my baby boy was so quiet then after the screaming. I looked over and his eyes were blinking so slowly. I assumed he was sleepwalking or something. Maybe he screamed at the sight of it and fainted in place, standing. I walked him back to his bedroom, and when I came back out with the b-ball bat, it was gone.
It left so many footprints around, and I counted them a little bit later in the afternoon. Around 140. My son hasn't been the same since. He always keeps his eyes closed and his tongue out. I tell him not to, and he still does. And he draws a picture of the animal before bed every night. He named it the buffalo roach.
They enthusiastically told me stories of how others instantly fell in love with him at the first step into his chamber. They promised me that I would surely experience the same feelings. Deep down, I was partially convinced. Who wouldn't be with the thick, palpable, suffocating air they were generating in discussions so far from his true location? They threw around terrible terms that left me so full of dread, like undeniably, objectively, and inevitably. Some sentiments in me are upsettingly impressionable, but not the whole of me, no. I've always maintained that I'm mostly and strongly suspicious of popular opinions. I'm a natural skeptic, but rather a learned skeptic. Both my parents were disagreeable critics. They perpetually denied every opportunity for agreement, even within the family. Thanks to Mom and Dad, now I find all people suspicious. It's not just outside. I constantly test and stress the strength and permanence of my own interior thoughts. For this reason, I tread carefully, and if I can, I avoid altogether the seemingly fixed judgments of others. I find certainty and bias disconcerting. Some more transparency. Deep down, there was a growing iota of envy. Those rumors of objective beauty remind me of my own lifelong struggle with my self-image. How does one distinguish the glances of harmless fascination from those of disgust? The distinction was never clear to me until I finally visited David. David had only separated like that a few days in antiquity. There was no ambiguity in the crowd. Everyone was mortified. Except for me. I was absolutely taken with Long David.
figures, beings that inspired countless stories. She wanted me to pursue her line of work, but I was never as ambitious as her. All those entities around the world know of my mother, and by extension, me. They've found me in various places over the years. They've come to ask questions, and always to their disappointment, I hold no answers for them. I have no advice for wiser and more aged creatures, yet they keep seeking me out. Mostly nostalgia, they say. Even here, at this antique store where I presently work, they find me. Last week, somebody donated the horns at the Minotaur shed in '77. Apparently, the volume of the first Star Wars film in theaters woke him from his underground slumber. Police officers shot off his crown and then lost him in an alleyway. More recently, somebody donated an old altar. It had accumulated dust, dirt, and grease over the years, so I took my time cleaning it. Something deep inside me wanted to take care of it. We aren't supposed to take in religious items. We aren't supposed to sell anything with potential religious significance. But there is already a mid-century price penciled into the back, close to $100. We sell nearly everything cheap so that the community can easily circulate material. I felt compelled to discount it. I did. From then on, for hours, for the rest of the day, I was filled with guilt, like it was some enormous liquid. Joy and motivation abandoned me for the rest of the shift. Co-workers noticed. I explained that I was just tired. Then somebody bought the altar at the end of the day. The guilt became all-consuming. I took a break to orbit the outside of the store. I needed the walk, despite the boiling summer air. An ambulance passed by, and it seemed particularly loud. I put my hands over my ears, and in that muffled quiet, I could hear it. A soft singing in the distance. The guilt dialed down. When I lowered my palms, the guilt resumed, louder within me. Then I thought that I should have washed my hands first. I went to the staff sink. Inside, there sat an angel. It was softly singing. Historical Cupid itself. There was no love in that sink. Maybe I should have washed it there. Maybe I didn't clean it enough. Maybe I wasn't clean enough.